We do have quorum.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Peralta Community College board meeting this evening on March 8th. I will call to order the meeting at 6:01. And right before we start, I just want the individuals that spoke during public comment to know that we have heard you, and the Chancellor and the President will be in touch. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance 3.2. For the Pledge of Allegiance, may I have Trustee Jenkins do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Are you ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Let's go to 3.3, roll call.
Student Trustee Hogan. Student Trustee Cooper.
Present.
Trustee Withdraw.
Here.
Trustee Jenkins.
Here.
Trustee Handy. Trustee Handy, are you there? I don't see her. Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan. Trustee Bonilla.
Present.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Here.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to 3.4, the affirmation of the Statement of Cooperation. Please put that on the screen. Thank you, Maisha. All right, as per usual, until we have the abbreviated version, these are the parameters of our board meeting that we all agreed and signed on, and I will read them out to you right now, right before we begin our meeting. Number one, the board is continuing to work on trust in and among our members. We agree to listen and seek to understand others and opposing viewpoints with the expectation of good intentions and a deep commitment to the district's students. We commit to being prepared for each meeting and to work within our established communication protocols when we seek additional information. Members will review the agenda in advance of each meeting and adhere to Board Policy 2340 for adding items to the agenda. We have reviewed the board's code of ethics and commit to reviewing it annually at our organizational meeting to remind ourselves of the behavior we are to exhibit and the guidelines we are to follow in our role. If the code of ethics is violated, we commit to follow the process stated in the code and will first address concerns informally to settle disagreements one-on-one between and among members before moving to the formal process. We agree that from time to time, the chair will remind members of appropriate behavior and may call for a recess or redirect members if they stray from the topic of discussion. We collectively recognize that it is within the duties and authority of the chair to render decisions or take actions to keep our meetings on track in adherence to board policy. We will strive to fulfill the vision we established for ourselves. And lastly, we will model the behavior we want others to exhibit. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Vice President Delphine Polk, and I will reappear in a little bit.
Thank you, President Reese. I don't believe, Sasha, if you can correct me, I don't believe we have a readout for closed session, do we?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next is 3.6, approval of the agenda. Can I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Second?
I'll second. I have a question on 6.1.
Okay. Do we want to pull that from, is that from consent?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on consent. We don't necessarily have to pull it. Like, I just want to have a question.
Okay. Any others?
What? I was just going to say, Vice President Delphine Polk, why don't we go ahead and pull that? And then we'll vote on it.
Yeah.
All the others.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pull that, Sasha. Anything else, colleagues? Okay, let's do a vote, please.
Student Trustee Hogan. Student trustee Cooper,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy. Still not here. Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you very much. Let's move on to 3.7, approval of the minutes. Can I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Roll call.
1 second. Student trustee Hogan. Student trustee Cooper,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy. Not here. Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee
Yes.
Bonilla. There you are. Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you very much. Let's move on to 3.8, associated student government reports. Do we have any student leaders?
Hi.
Yes, you're in. Go ahead. You're
Go
in the
ahead, please.
room.
Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Torres. I'm the associate student senator for College of Alameda. Good evening, Madam President, Chancellor, and members of the board. Our student report is on engagement. And so for this, for our engagement, myself, Senator Velasquez and myself will be attending the SSCC General Assembly, along with our advisor, Director Rodriguez. And the celebrations that are in this month, we are planning to launch our social media, which if you guys can follow, or I can put the link in the chat. It's COA Student Government. Through this channel, we will be celebrating Women's History Month. And we will also be highlighting leaders of our College of Alameda women. And from there, we will also on March 28th be honoring our Disability Awareness Month in collaboration with the SAS program. Following, we will also on March 31st be honoring Cesar Chavez Day by promoting a social media video. And in addition, for the following months, we will also have the acknowledgement of our peers, faculty, staff, and who observe the Ramadan. And we also will be highlighting the APIA Heritage event in the month of April. In the month of May, we will be demystifying the conversation of the true history of the Battle of the Puebla, or also known as Cinco de Mayo. And we will be celebrating Harvey Milk Day and also mental health awareness. We will also like to encourage our student body to vote on the 12th and 13th, and also try to promote any other things on the plate. Our basic needs that we are also achieving is the monthly free food produce that's still on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of the month between 12 and 2. Students can also, if they have not and are in three units or more and have not received the emergency food grant, can also do so by reaching out to Staff Assistant Jeremy Simon. And that's it for today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other student leaders who wish to speak?
Looks like that is all that we have for today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and move to 3.9, the Peralta Classified Senate Report. Terrence?
Okay. Good evening, President Reese, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, presidents, and guests. Tonight we have one Classified Senate campus report. The report comes from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. The next Classified Senate meeting is this Wednesday, March 9th at 2:30 p.m. Classified Senate leadership coordinated a welcome back to campus meeting and luncheon for all classified professionals. The themed lunch offered a fact-finding activity, a raffle, and diverse lunch offering served by administrators to show appreciation for all that classified professionals offered to BCC. The classified leadership team is developing a workshop in collaboration with Cal State East Bay to present classified professionals with options for Bachelors of Arts, Bachelor of Science completion, and/or graduate programs closely aligned with their intended career pathways for professional growth and personal growth at Peralta and beyond. On a personal note, I want to point out that today is International Women's Day. It's a global holiday celebrated annually on March 8th to commemorate the cultural, political, and socio-economic achievements of women. The Peralta Classified Senate acknowledges the contributions of countless women to the success of the Peralta Community College District. That is the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you, Terrence. Let's move to 3.10, District Academic Senate Report. Donald?
I don't see Donald.
Is there anybody in his place that let us know that they're going to speak?
Sasha, did anybody come?
No, I swear I saw him earlier.
Okay. Okay. So we can move to 3.11, Public Communication, Sasha and Mai.
Okay, I'm going to move over, providing that I can this time, Jennifer Shanowski. See if it works. Okay, Jennifer Shanowski is in. If anyone else wants to speak during public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, Jennifer, and then Jeff Sinceri is next.
Hi, good evening. I want to talk about a couple of items that are on the board agenda, and if I have time, I'd also like to share a little story about what happened when I visited the district office yesterday. So on tonight's agenda is the report to FCMAT. The letter is dated December 22nd, but in the agenda packet was the first time that I had the opportunity to read it, despite being on all of the high-level district shared governance committees. In that FCMAT report, there are several places where it indicates that the district has successfully adjusted staffing based on FTES. I would like to point out that every single one of those comments is associated with the cutting of faculty, FTEF, to align with a productivity of 17.5 for our FTES. Staffing has not been adjusted in other areas in accordance with student need. It's curious that we need so many administrators, I believe there are 9 on tonight's agenda, to manage folks that are being laid off in droves. I was excited to see the CCAP with Berkeley Unified School District. I live in Berkeley and am a great supporter of their schools, our schools. And I'd like to point out that that CCAP does indicate that the faculty teaching dual enrollment courses are, in fact, Peralta faculty covered by the PFT contract with all the rights and privileges that are within that. The district has seemingly forgotten that those courses are taught by Peralta faculty and that our contract is in place. Finally, I'd like to go ahead and congratulate the 19 faculty being granted tenure tonight. In the before times, we had a big celebration for these faculty because it's quite an achievement to go through a hiring process with faculty, staff, and administrators to be selected, to be evaluated, to learn all the ropes within Peralta, and then successfully be granted tenure. So I welcome all 19 newly tenured faculty members. I hope that you're all PFT members and you will get involved in your union. It is incumbent upon all of us with tenure to speak truth to power, even when it's not popular. So please join us in the future. Again, congratulations. And I will send out the same offer to all of you that I sent out last time. And that is that I will bake you a cake of your choice and of your flavor choice. Or I will give you a bottle. Or I will give you a bottle of bubbly to celebrate your great accomplishment. So congratulations and welcome to the ranks of the tenured faculty.
Okay, we also have Jeff Sinceri and Ronald Nelson. So Jeff, you can go next.
You guys are lucky she ran out of time. She was going to offer you cheesecake and pie too. I wasn't necessarily like planning. I was planning to cede my time, but I did want to say a couple things that I'm a little frustrated about. I noticed on the agenda there's 8 interim management positions that were extended tonight, and I just want to say that bypassing shared governance and showing what really is kind of zero respect for faculty isn't an effective way to demonstrate stability. It does the opposite, especially in the short term. But let's be honest with ourselves, the majority of our highest level executives, all interims and all appointments, won't be here in 3 years anyway. And for that matter, I suspect that, I think it's fair to say that none of you on the board will be here past 2025 either. And I understand, your apathy or your resistance to faculty input, because as teachers, I have to think about the long term. I have to think about 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and I have to think about the future of not just myself, but of my students who are, God willing, always going to be here. And not necessarily quite as much about like the short term or like, where my next job in a couple of years is going to be and how to do things like, that look good right now, but maybe in the long term aren't as useful for the future of our institutions. So I'm hoping that our board can just keep an eye on the long term, even if it doesn't benefit them in the short term, because that's how we're going to stay solvent and stay thriving. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, we have Ronald Nelson.
I unmuted myself finally. Hello there, I'm Ronald Nelson. I'm a counselor with Student Accessibility Services at Merritt College. I'm new to Zooming with the board, and I am going to, if it's appropriate, when President Johnson addresses 7.2 Advantage Design Group Video, ICC, independent contract, I would like to support him in this manner because Student Accessibility Services is my home with Merritt College. And so I wasn't sure how to do all this, but I'm here as well and now ready to speak when it's appropriate, if it's appropriate. I defer to President Johnson when he needs me.
Thank you. Are there any others who are registered as attendees who would like to speak for public comment? Okay, I think that is it.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We will go next to 3.12, the Chancellor's reports.
Before I have the president's, just so Mr. Nelson knows, it is part of the consent agenda and you have already spoken to it, so you do not have to stay until we get to that portion unless you want to speak specifically to that item. And then if so, then we will give you the opportunity. But just a point of clarification for you, this is the public comment, and you've made your comment and you pointed out the item, but you can also wait until we get to the agenda, the consent agenda. But usually the consent agenda is done in bulk rather than going through each item at a time. So it's your choice how you'd like to proceed. I just wanted to give you some clarity.
Thank you, Chancellor.
So tonight, instead of President Garcia, she had some personal items that she had to take care of. I'd like to start with Berkeley City College and the Vice President of Instruction, Dr. Cooney Hay, will report for Berkeley City, followed by Dr. David Johnson for Merritt College, and then Dr. Rudy Besikoff for Laney College, and last, Dr. Nathaniel Johnson III for College of Alameda. And after we hear the president's report, then I'd like for our executive director of MCPR, Mark Johnson, to make a brief presentation on behalf of the district. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Hay.
Good evening, President Napolia Valley-Reese, Dr. Jackson, members of the Board of Trustees, and colleagues and community members. In addition to the written report in your board packet, I'd like to share some few remarks. First, happy International Women's Day today. Dr. Garcia sent out a message honoring Women's History Month with specific remarks acknowledging women who paved the way for others to follow, such as the first female senator elected to office, Shirley Chisholm. The BCC Women's Leadership Club held an event during College Hour today titled Women Providing Health, Healing, Promoting Hope. For students, they described this theme as representing the tumultuous history and in a pride in women's history, along with the past 2 years, in which they have seen so many brave women at the pandemic's front lines fighting for health, rights, and in a better world. On March 2nd, the Students for Social Change Club hosted a virtual presentation called What's Going On in Ukraine, providing historical and political context of the conflicts for interested students. Today, BCC's President's Equity and Racial Justice Task Force kicked off its listening session with our students, and then this will go until the end of April. We'll be hearing from and learning from African-American students, Latinx students, and then AAPI and Native American students whose goals are to transfer and then or degree attainment. We'll be focusing on 3 themes: sense of belonging, institutional receptivity, retention, success, and completion. Finally, I need to share a sad news of a student passing last week. Casey Segovia joined BCC community in summer of 2018, majoring in communication studies through fall 2019 semester. After taking some time off, she returned to BCC this semester. Casey found home in the Extended Opportunity Program and Services, EOPS, PNS, finding the academic support she needed to thrive. I'd like to respectfully ask the Board of Trustees to consider closing tonight's meeting in honor of Casey Segovia. Thank you so very much for your consideration, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hay. Appreciate you. Good evening, President Napolia Valley-Reese, members of the board, Chancellor, presidents, and community members. This is the report for Merritt College. On Tuesday, March 1st, we held our Day of Appreciation, which was an event where we provided breakfast in the morning and lunch in the afternoon to our students, our classified professional staff folks, our faculty, administrators, community members. And it was really satisfying to see people come out to eat and fellowship. We had nearly 150 people at each sitting. We had Trustee Handy came out and represented. Mark Johnson was there. So it was even had district representation. So that was really good. But what moved me most about the day was really the energy, the enthusiasm, the gratitude, and the joy that was on full display. And I think the event was really an excellent reminder that despite the challenges of the last 2 years, it showed that we're still connected, committed, and we're still a community. So we look forward to doing a few more of those events before the semester ends to really continue to express our gratitude for the work that we're privileged to do. Next, I also want to acknowledge March as Women's History Month, and today is International Women's Day. And in doing so, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history that led to the commemoration. In 1978, the Education Task Force of Sonoma County, right here in California, birthplace, that Commission on the Status of Women organized a week-long celebration of all the contributions of women. Couldn't get it all in a week, but they tried. Out of that, the National Women's History Project, which is now known as the National Women's History Alliance, continued to lobby every year tirelessly to lobby Congress to get the acknowledgement for Women's History Month. And let me get this right, I want to get it right, history right. And in 1987 was the year that Congress passed a resolution to formally designate the month as Women's History Month. It was signed by Ronald Reagan at that time. So even as we celebrate, I also want to acknowledge the work of the women of Merritt, the work that the women of Merritt College are doing, whether it be the leaders in our administrative ranks, the classified and academic senates, the collective bargaining units, our governance groups. We have so many amazing women who are doing great things. Even have to give a nod to the women of our district, the dynamic women on our board. It's an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. And you really do serve as an example for our students who are aspiring to higher heights. So just a little word to salute you all. I also want to share that Merritt College, along with our sister schools, we just got back from the Community College League of California, the CEO Symposium, and we represented the district quite well, in my opinion. Some of the topics that we discussed were the positive impact of potential student housing projects, the importance of crafting effective strategies for advancing DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and how technology can be leveraged to address basic needs for students. But one of the things I found really interesting, I'm just going to say this, several individuals throughout the conference would come up and almost in hushed tones, how's everything going at Merritt? How's everything going at Peralta? And it was really edifying to be able to say quite proudly that the Merritt and the district, our train is on track and on schedule. So that was really good to be able to share that and to be able to let them know that they need to be concerned as we continue to be focused on carrying forward our momentum and achieving great things for the students in the community. So, Peralta put folks on notice while we were at the CEO Symposium. And finally, I just want to close out. I know Jennifer mentioned it earlier, but I have to give a special shout out to the 4 people from Merritt who have crossed over to the other side in terms of tenure. I know that item's coming up, but hopefully we'll cross over to the other side for tenure. And that's Rebecca Ullman in math, John Rodriguez in biology, Danae Martinez in African American Studies, and Ron Moss in COSA. So just from your president, congratulations. As soon as the paperwork is signed, sealed, and delivered, we are going to celebrate. So that's my report for the evening.
Good evening, Chancellor Jackson, President Napoli Abella Reese, members of the governing board, students, colleagues in education, and valued community members. I would like to go ahead and start my report off tonight by providing an update on our pool, specifically as it relates to our ability to begin to really open up and offer programs such as our master's swimming course. I know this was mentioned a few months ago in a board report, and or in a question from a board member, and I just wanted to go ahead and provide a quick update. With the kind of returning to our campus after a couple of years and the, reinitiating of equipment such as, pool pumps and things like that, there have certainly been a number of issues that have come up and repairs that have been needed along the way. And what we are hopeful for at this point is to have our pool able to start hosting or being able to support our competitive swimming of our own teams within athletics beginning sometime in April. Continuing on with the extensive repairs that include a number of leaks below our pool deck and a number of things like that. The work does continue, and what we are hopeful to do is open our pool on a grander scale at the beginning of summer. So, you know, again, when you have a big campus and things have been off for a while, the return often comes with bumps, but we're navigating them, and we look forward to opening things up and even more as we keep going forward. Speaking of opening things up and really doing things that are great, especially today on International Women's Day and also in terms of Women's History Month, today was an awesome day on the Laney campus on the quad as we commemorated the women in trades. CTE and Employment Services teamed up to host a panel of 7 individuals who addressed folks on the quad, and it really was neat to go down to the quad today and just take it all in, because I did see a number of our employees, but after noting them, I counted the others who were on the quad, and there were over 50 people, not just milling about, but actually sitting in attendance and listening to a lot of the sharing that was going on with this panel. And it was great to see our faculty emeritus, Cynthia Correa, as well as our department chair of electricity and electronics technology, Professor Farouk Hashimi, as 2 members of this distinguished panel. And I thought it was a great thing, and was just an outstanding coming together of our community. A number of our WIOA partners, as well as the Lau Family Foundation, were also on hand. And it was just great to see so many come onto our campus for this great event. Great events continue for sure. March 16th, we are continuing an innovation we started in the fall, which is essentially to offer our one-stop enrollment services for our late starting classes, the bulk of which start March 21st. So I hope you'll come to campus between 10 and 2 o'clock down by the flagpole at Laney. You'll get personal attention, personal face-to-face attention. But if your want is to get virtual attention, that will also be available from 4 to 6 p.m. And our incredible public information officer, Lorena Baldazzo, has been posting that information on various social media outlets, including Zoom link information. So we certainly look forward to that. Well, we were also pleased, and yes, I was fortunate enough to attend the CEO Symposium, but my colleagues, Kim Blackwell, Kimberly King, and Shanice Milliken, along with 4 students, attended the A2 Men conference that you all heard about at the last board meeting. And it was great to see a lot of that sharing that went on, and look forward to hearing more about that on my campus. And certainly also want to, again, thank the many colleagues who made Black History Month at Laney College with its 9 events a great success. This coming Friday, we're going to have our strategic planning event at Laney College from 9 until 1 p.m. We'll be taking a look at our strategic goals and objectives, and really taking time, and I appreciate it as the chair of our college council, to say that as we're coming back, one thing that's important is to really engage our campus voices and hear all of them. So really want to invite the entire campus community at Laney, including students, to make some time and come see us on Friday morning. We will also have a Zoom link available for that event as well. And finally, I'll close my report tonight by welcoming our new acting IT director, Mr. Bala Sampatraj, is taken on this role after many years at the College of Alameda. And we certainly welcome him and wish him the best in his new assignment. And with that, I'll conclude my report for tonight.
All right. Good evening, President Reese, trustees, Chancellor Jackson, colleagues, and community members. I'm delighted to provide this report for the College of Alameda. As previously acknowledged, the month of March, we celebrate Women's History Month. We recognize and applaud the innumerable contributions in various fields that women have made in the service of the advancement of humanity. We salute and thank the women of our district and College of Alameda family. Our Accessible program hosted its first virtual career panel series on Thursday, February the 10th. Students heard from panelists with careers in government affairs, finance, teaching, education administration, and health insurance. Panelists included California Department of Finance Assistant Program Budget Manager Guadalupe Martinez, Optimum of California Supervisor Patient Liaison Hiroto Roas, California Cable and Telecommunication Associate Legislative Analyst Elizabeth Bojoros, Voices Language Academy's Director of Special Program Juan Carlos Villasnoras, and All Relations Leadership Group Chief Executive Officer and Founder, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez. Presenters shared their education and career journeys, provided valuable advice, and answered questions from students in the online audience. I would like to thank our Accesso team for organizing such a wonderful event. As our student trustee mentioned, I'd like to talk about a few programs that we do at College of Alameda in support of students who deal with food insecurity. The goal of College Alameda's free produce market and emergency food grant program is to help improve student persistence and success by intentionally addressing the issue of food insecurity experienced by many of our students, particularly students of color. The free produce market provides food items to students and the community. The Alameda County Community Food Bank recently awarded our program a $1,300 capacity building grant. The Emergency Food Grant Program provides students with a one-time award of a $300 Safeway gift card. We are currently in the process of distributing more than 160 such gift cards. I would like to thank our Director of Student Activities and Campus Life, Natalie Rodriguez, for doing a great job with these student-centered programs. In the middle of February, the Dean of Counseling and Special Programs, Dr. Shalman Duke, invited faculty, classified staff, administrators, and students to participate in the Self-Care for Educators 21-Day Challenge. The challenge was designed to engage and offer self-care strategies in the context of exploring challenges of bias, racism, and privilege. The challenge provided participants the opportunity to learn, reflect, and act. Thank you, Dr. Duke, for your leadership in this area, and that ends my report for this evening.
Thank you, President Jones. Thank you, Chancellor Jackson, President Reese, trustees, colleagues, and community members. It's my pleasure to talk with you tonight about a couple of really great updates with Peralta Web Properties. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you the Safe Peralta website. So as you know, this is our site for emergency communications, and we've been using it throughout the pandemic. We built it during the pandemic. And when classes started in January, we were directing lots of students to the site, as we always do. And Professor Bill Trego at Laney College found some things that he thought that we could do better. And he reached out to Laney administration, who then reached out to me I was able to meet with Professor Trego, take notes on his great recommendations. And as a result, we've introduced these buttons on the homepage now. The first button is for campus access. And that gives the user very specific instructions based on their role if they are coming to campus, if they're a student or faculty or staff member or a guest and vendor. The next button is information about vaccines and testing, which we've had on the site all throughout the pandemic. The next button was what to do if you get exposed to COVID-19. Again, we have detailed instructions based on an individual's persona as a student or an employee. And then we have the Cal OSHA table of situation and then recommendations. Finally, and I believe this came from a request from one of the trustees on making it easier to find the presentations that we've given to the community. So we've created another button for presentations and town halls that gives us a one-stop place to see where we have given a lot of information in a webinar setting about the pandemic and our response. Return to campus plans. As you expand beneath the video recording of each of these town halls, you can see the questions and answers associated with that particular event. And then the last thing was a new button that we'd added for questions. And if you have a questions, you can fill out this form. This triggers an email to Aaron Harbour, who is a web content developer. At the beginning of the semester, we were getting about 2 to 3 questions per day, and now it's slowed down to maybe 1 or 2 a week. So it seems to be working very well. So those are the updates with Safe Peralta, safe.peralta.edu. Now I'm going to shift gears, and I'm so excited about this next part because we're talking about the Peralta website, the main website. This is a screenshot from the Wayback Machine from 10 years ago on March 7th. I believe it was March 5th or 6th, 2012. This is what the website looked like. And if I click on what the website looks like today on web.peralta, you can see the site hasn't changed at all. It's got the same 3-column design. I am absolutely thrilled to show you our new Peralta website. So if you go to peralta.edu or www.peralta.edu, the user is taken to our brand new website. It's hosted on the HubSpot content management system. I spoke to you all back in January 25th, and I said we were going to launch this in February. We adjusted the dates from February 15th to February 22nd. We wanted to make sure that redistricting information, I had some ads running for redistricting, so we wanted to make sure that people could find that important information. And as soon as that was approved, we launched the following day. We had some challenges updating the DNS. In my gratitude to Chi Out and Antoine Mehule from the Peralta IT department for working with us to update the DNS settings. The new site is a nice responsive design as opposed to the old site. And that means that as one adjusts the screen size, whether they're using their phone or a tablet or a Mac, a laptop or a desktop computer, the site responds appropriately for that site. Our old website had very, very serious accessibility challenges. The new site we're working through with a tool from the State Chancellor's Office called called Pope Tech. And we are making sure that those accessibility problems are resolved. We are not completely done with that. There are still a few problems, but nothing as serious as what we had on the present website. So I'm very excited about the new accessibility of the website. If I take you through to some of the most frequently used pages within the website, here's our information to apply and enroll. It has a very nice, clean design that gets people straight to the CCC Apply site for their college or into Campus Solutions. And here's another example for non-credit instruction. You'll notice the menu is contextual on the right-hand side as I change from department to department. For employees, here's our new human resources page, which is a very nice design and layout with different buttons for the different types of resources that employees might want to have. I really, really, really want to thank Aaron Harbour and John Freeman, our web content developers. Aaron has been working on this project for 1.5 years and has done a really amazing work. I also want to thank Marcus Creel, who is the graphic designer at the district. This site was designed in-house in collaboration with faculty, staff, and students. We met with students from all 4 campuses. Marcus took their input and came up with that really beautiful site design. Let's see, the next steps after accessibility is translations. So we know that translated content is very important, and we'll be working with my colleagues in the district to come up with translated content in Spanish, Chinese, Tagalog to start with, and then other languages on down the list of resources. So right now we're focusing on the content that we know that's really most used by students for the translations, and we hope to be able to have that translated content up within a few months. And that concludes my brief presentation about our new website updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to the presidents and Vice President of Instruction. Hey, appreciate all of your comments, and happy Women's History Month and History Day to everyone. And I'll turn it back over to our Vice President of the board, Deanna Delphine Polk, or I'm not sure if the president is online still or.
Almost there.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So I'll turn it back over to the Vice President. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's move on to presentations 4.1. Recent rating action by Moody's Investor Services.
Hi, this is Vincent McCarley and also Dave Olson from Baxter McCarley Berry. And we have a presentation for you this evening in regards to recent rating action by Moody's, which is one of 3 rating agencies that rates the district. I will let Dave Olson start our presentation. Dave?
Thank you very much, Vincent. I know most of you have seen me before, either giving a bond program update to the board or talking to the CBOC or the retirement board. As Vincent indicated, today we're here to talk about recent rating action by Moody's, a downgrade of both the district's general obligation bonds and the district's OPEB bonds, in some cases a double downgrade. And I think what we want to do in general is that we want to provide some context for that action. We want to talk about what the Moody's report said specifically, and we want to talk about what steps the district might take going forward. A major point of emphasis in the presentation is that while we don't entirely agree with the results here and with Moody's conclusions, we do think that their surveillance, that this surveillance raised some legitimate concerns, and that there are some things that we can do about those concerns that will be of significant benefit to the district moving forward. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. This first slide that Vincent has up, the purpose of the presentation. Again, we want to explain that in context, the recent downgrade, and to describe some actions that the district might take. We list some questions here. Basically, the questions are, why do the rating agencies care?
I'm sorry, can we get it in presentation mode rather than we're looking at multiple slides and it's difficult to see it versus putting it in presentation mode? I'm sorry for
I have it ready if you'd like for me to share for you.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, you'll just need to stop sharing your screen and then I can come in.
So you're off the hook for now, Vincent, and
Thank you.
and David, all you just need to do is just let us know when you want us to progress to the next slide.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, as I was saying, we've listed a number of questions here. Basically, they come down to, why do the rating agencies care? What's their assessment of the district's credit? What can we do in the future to create a better impression on them and on the investors whose interests they represent? Next slide, please. I think the answer why it matters is we have a lot of bonds outstanding. $400 million, nearly $400 million of general obligation bonds and growing based on the identified and emerging facility needs. We're going to be issuing bonds and really a significant amount of bonds for a long time to come. The question is, what's it going to cost us to issue those bonds and what can we do to reduce those costs, the interest costs specifically? Next slide. We're also going to be remarketing our OPEB bonds. The bond structure we've inherited that dates all the way back to 2005 requires us to remarket separate tranches of bonds every 5 years. Because of our swap arrangements and other factors, the last 2 rounds of remarketing, we've used a letter of credit bank. And for us to get them involved and keep them involved, they need to like the district's credit. So in fact, probably the biggest risk that we have in further downgrades is actually for it to be disruptive to this OPEB program specifically. So the GO bonds and the OPEB bonds both matter. Next slide. Next slide. We talked about the investors and the rating agencies, both those who own bonds and are likely to buy bonds in the future. But the bottom line is it's a lot of things, right? It's the general obligation bonds and the OPEB bonds, the old bonds and the new bonds. It's investors and rating agencies and the letter of credit banks. If any of those parties don't like what they see as far as the district credit goes, they can express their dissatisfaction in ways that increase the district costs of funds and make every borrowing we do more and more expensive, which as we're issuing more and more bonds is going to be a bigger and bigger deal. So that's a key consideration here, but not the only consideration is the cost of funds. Next slide. Recent rating concerns that the rating agencies have had their eye on us. Look at the dates in the reports, right? Last March, last September, this past January. And because of the district's situation, kind of past financial issues, concerns about accreditation, the complicated OPEB bond program and the OPEB repayment plan that changes from year to year, documents that are a little difficult to read or hard to put to one another. The surveillance process is not entirely straightforward, can be a little contentious, and we're coming up on another call later this month to kind of start a new process again with Fitch. So it makes sense from the angle of kind of easing the process and making things go more smoothly to kind of make some changes that make it a little bit easier. Vincent, you want to talk about the some of the specifics of the Moody's engagement?
Yes, if we can go to the next slide, to slide 6. As Dave mentioned with Moody's, and bear in mind, this is Moody's opinion in regards to the district. This past fall in August, Moody's implemented a new higher education methodology in terms of their approach to rating both four-year colleges across the country as well as community colleges. And that was a significant change, one in terms of just updating their higher ed methodology, but the significant change as it relates to Peralta is that it included community colleges in this group. And it also created what may be considered more of an enterprise evaluation or business evaluation relative to the district under this methodology than what was utilized previously under its, excuse me, general obligation criteria. Here is reflected what they use for their scorecard for four-year colleges and universities, and now including community colleges. And these are the various categories and the weightings that they put on those various categories. And unfortunately, under this metric, the district does not fare very well. And a part of that is what Dave was alluding to earlier in regards to the debt that's outstanding under the OPEB bonds. We won't go into detail in regards to the OPEB bonds tonight. We'll do that in a future discussion with the board. Turning the page. So what was the impact to community colleges, and specifically community colleges in California? And part of our argument to Moody's was that California community colleges are funded a little bit differently than how you can look at community colleges in other parts of the country, as well as in terms of utilizing it as a comparison with four-year institutions, both public and private. And with Moody's methodology, they basically had two community colleges within California that fell under this construct. And one of those being West Valley Mission Community College, which fared fairly well under this new methodology. But then again, they were starting at a much higher level for this methodology. And the amount of debt that was involved is much, much less than what Peralta has that falls under this methodology as well. And so utilizing Moody's approach, it did result in a double downgrade in regards to some of the bonds, specifically a portion of the OPEB bonds, as well as the general obligation bonds related there. You turn to the next slide, to page 8. Here you'll see the categories of ratings that basically came out as a result of the Moody's review. An issuer rating at a Baa2. And you can say, what is an issuer rating? That is, if there was no other pledge or security, it was just your promise to pay, that is what Moody's basically pegged here, a Baa2, which is an investment grade rating, but it's at the lower tier. And so that's obviously something we'd want to improve upon. Your general obligation bond rating, that would be for your tax-supported bonds that you have. And they moved those from an A1 2 levels down to an A3. And that also created basically one of the lower ratings among California community colleges for general obligation bonds. The next category for the OPEB bonds, again, was also downgraded, but just one notch from A3 to Baa1. And a part of that was the result of our further clarifying some of the legal structure that's involved and some of the legal protections related to the OPEB bonds themselves. And there's basically two categories of the OPEB bonds. There's the 2005 bonds, and then there was refunding in 2011. And they rated those a little bit lower because they don't have some of the same benefits as the 2005, the original 2005 bonds. On the next page, on page 9, credit challenges and strengths. These are items that are directly from the Moody's report or Moody's opinions. And you'll see on the left-hand side here, the credit strengths for the district. Strong East Bay service area with large and growing tax base. And that, again, is one of the strongest strengths that the district has, is the community in which you serve, the economy that exists within the East Bay, and the tax base that's there. And as well as you're quite aware, the support that the community has provided to the district. Also viewed as a strength is the fact that the district invited in FICMAC to help oversee and to provide suggestions in terms of further strengthening and putting in place financial reforms. And that also goes into the accreditation process as well. Hold harmless, which comes from the state. And basically, as you're aware, the district has been having significant declines in terms of enrollment, but the state has held the district and other districts within California harmless as a result of those declining enrollments as adjustments are made within the economy. Challenges, as cited again, the declines in enrollment, some which occurred prior to the pandemic, but also further accentuated during the course of the pandemic. The status of accreditation, significant level of staff turnover, especially at the senior level for example, the Chancellor and for the CFO, which again would be critical positions that interface with the credit rating agencies. Highly leveraged, and again, this goes back to the OPEB bonds, a very complicated structure and mechanism, which again was put in place back in 2005. And we're still dealing with that. And again, we'll come back to the board in a future session to talk in more detail about those bonds. Next page. We made a number of arguments or positions to Moody's, but basically that although there has been positive changes within the district from a financial standpoint, Moody's position was that they were not significant enough and long-term enduring enough for them to come to a different conclusion than what they did in this particular round of surveillance. Next page. Notable successes. We accomplished a number of positive items as a result of this process with Moody's, and we'll continue to try to improve upon those. And I won't go in full detail here, but basically we're able to, again, clarify some of the legal structure related to the OPEB bonds with the rating analysts. We're also able to get additional players at Moody's involved in the process, so it wasn't just one particular analyst's viewpoint that was coming to the forefront. There are some other items that we were able to achieve, but again, we'll bypass on those for this evening's discussion. Page 12. Page 12 is the actual Moody's scorecard as it relates to Peralta. And the items that are highlighted in red are the areas that were of very significant concern to Moody's, and I'll focus in a little bit on those. Financial resources, basically the amount of cash and investment that's available. Should there be a rainy day? Should there be, circumstances that come about whereby you may have to utilize reserves? And noted financial policies here. The district put in place a couple of years ago a 10% reserve policy, and that was well noted within our presentations with Moody's and discussions with them. They would like to see the district actually do more, and not only in terms of the reserve policy, but in other matters of policy related to the financial operations of the district. Leverage and coverage. Basically, again, referring back to the OPEB bonds, it's an item whereby they're concerned about the ongoing ability of the district to manage the debt that's involved there, as well as some of the risks that are involved with the bonds that are associated there. Under operating performance, there in the middle, we have EBITDA, which is basically earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization. And again, their viewpoint or their approach is looking at the district from a business standpoint or as an enterprise. And that's where you basically have net income at the end of your fiscal year and are able to add to your fund balance each year. Next page, 13, additional factors. I won't go into detail here because some of those items that are listed here we talked about in some of the earlier pages. But again, these are items that we'll continue to work with Moody's as we go forward, as well as with some of the other rating agencies as we complete their surveillances in that process. And with that, let's turn to page 14 and back to Dave. You're on mute, Dave.
Thank you, Vincent. So going from what what Moody says to kind of what actions we might consider taking. In terms of a short-term action plan, we identified 3 things the district can do this fiscal year. So within the next 3 or 4 months that we think will be of significant benefit. Number 1 is improve the financial documentation, starting with this year's audit. The financial results have been pretty good in recent years, 4 out of 5 years of improving fund balance, consistently above 10% unreserved, consistently above 15% combined. But it's not readily apparent in the various financial documents and between financial documents. So we're already working with the auditor so that the key data is easy to find and easy to tell how it foots with the 311 reports, for example. But there's a number of other areas where we can do something. Number 2, clarify the key policies. The district has a plan to increase enrollment. It has a plan to maintain its strong financial position as these one-time monies go away, as the hold harmless goes away. And what we need to do is to have that plan be clear and easy to communicate to third parties. Number 3, I think take a bow. District has essentially satisfied some serious concerns of FICMAT and the ACCJC over the past number of years. Let people know it. Part of the message coming out of the boardroom at the district ought to be, it's morning in America for people who remember that campaign slogan, that things are getting better. So I think all of those things we can start making significant progress from over the next 3 or 4 months. Next slide, please. In terms of the long-term action plan, it starts with some of those same things. Make sure that the fixes we make stay fixed. Number 2, maybe we want to institute a formal rating recovery program. We can talk about what that might look like. Stable leadership has been a major concern of the rating agencies. It ends up in not only the Moody's report, but in the Fitch report and the S&P report too. That's something we can do something about. Multi-year budgeting, make sure that the multi-year budgeting is more than just 1 page in an adopted budget document. Know what we're going to do in the out years when the hold harmless goes away, and let people know that we know what we're going to do. Get closer to best practices regarding cash management. We'd like to have the audit report kind of better reflect the strength of the district's cash position. One of the ways we can do that is we can try to clean up the do froms, as we've talked with a deal about. It seems like a good idea before the end of the fiscal year, so that the audit gives you credit for those figures. Next slide. I do think things are improving. So we wanted to end on somewhat of a positive note. Full accreditation without sanction is just around the corner, we believe, or that's our understanding. If we take a disciplined approach to the policy initiatives in place and the recommended action plan, we'll develop a positive story on a number of fronts that we list on this slide. I think both Fitch and S&P will be looking at the district's credit within the next 6 months in a positive rating environment. You're likely to see positive reports or more positive reports from them. We need to continue to push on Moody's, obviously. but they'll continue to see a lot of material from us for sure. Next slide. One of the things that's notable, and Vincent went through a few of the things that come right out of the report, but the report specifically lists a few things, factors that could lead to an upgrade, factors that could lead to a downgrade too, but I wanted to focus on the upgrade ones. If the ACC determination of accreditation without sanction, if that comes through, that's a very much a positive figure for Moody's. That's a third party who's looking at you, who's giving you the thumbs up. Sustained improvement in financial performance and liquidity. I think that's a matter of both maintaining the good fiscal results and continuing to explain the good fiscal results that we've been getting. Significant reduction in leverage. Vincent touched on this a little bit. We think they've misanalyzed some of the OPEB bonds to some degree. And I think as we continue to hit that message, that'll be a positive. So I think all those three things are possible as we move ahead. Next slide. And the next slide says we'll have another chance in front of the rating agencies soon. Probably by the end of the year, of the fiscal year, as we get more money for our general obligation bond program, probably just S&P and Fitch, as it said on one of the earlier slides. We can choose who rates a new money bond issue. I think we choose the people who have a higher opinion of us in the short term. We'll also, as we sell bond, get a chance to evaluate investor concern in this climate after seeing the Moody's report and things like that. We probably want to put a special effort into a investor outreach this time around that we didn't have to last time. But I expect to get pretty good results there. So I think there are some positive things to look forward to. But that's the presentation we have, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, David and Vincent. Trustees, do we have any questions, follow-up, clarification questions?
Good presentation. I appreciate it. To what degree have we communicated to the rating agencies in this case the tremendous value of our real estate? To what degree have we talked about it? It's not just the end of the line kind of thing, but we have a lot of very valuable real estate. And as a finance guy, with what's going on with interest rates, the more interest rates go up, the value of our bonds outstanding are going to go down.
It's a very good question. We have not discussed with the rating agencies the real estate holdings of the district. In that, at least at this point in time, we think that would be not within our particular role to play. I think in earlier discussions under previous administrations, we had just some beginning inklings of some discussions about possible further utilization of some of the real estate holdings of the district, that maybe some of those were underutilized, but we have not communicated anything of that nature to any of the rating agencies.
But if I can say, I really appreciate the point. I think that you will be able to get some mileage out of that at the point where you use those real estate holdings, either as lease through sale of site or lease, and apply those funds to long-term obligations. It'll improve the leverage situation quite a bit, and that's something I think the district should be looking at.
Thank you.
I just want to take the opportunity, if there's no more questions, Vincent or David, to thank them publicly. Excuse me, they've really been advocating. They really have been advocating for us. And this report, and I want to underscore, is a new methodology that Moody's is using from what they've used in the past. So the criteria that you saw listed in the slides is what they use if they are evaluating Harvard University, Peralta Community College, Peralta College, or any other college in the nation. This is a national new methodology, which is totally different than the process that they've used in the past. That's one point that I want the board to take away. The other point is, because it is a standardized process that they're using, this methodology, if you notice, they've only evaluated 2 community colleges in California. West Valley Mission, which is a basic aid college, and Peralta, which is a FTES generating institution, and our funding comes from the state based upon our FTES. But we're still using the same formula to evaluate both. I said this to them when we had our meeting, and I'm saying it now. I think it is inherently biased just because we are different. We are not the same as even a community college in New Jersey is different than a community college, and its funding in California is different from a community college that is a basic aid college versus a community college in Texas. There's no bargaining units in Texas. It's a right to work state. There are vagrancies depending on the institution that I feel are not accounted for in their formula and in their methodology. And I voiced that opinion to them, but we went forward anyway. So I just wanted to point that out to the board. This is a new methodology that they are using. It was not, Bill, I think what you were saying, Trustee Withdraw, is that we made a presentation. Usually when we're up for review, we do a full presentation where we can bring in things like, real estate and the value or the possibility of selling and all of that type of thing. This was not. They had some specific questions. We addressed those questions as both Vincent and David explained, and we even brought in additional partners at Moody's so that we could get a different viewpoint rather than one analyst. But it did go to a panel. The panel made the decision, and what you're seeing is what was presented to us. And we now have some options that we can use this as a teaching moment to address some of the concerns as we go forward to get better, because they have some valid issues. I still think the instrument is inherently flawed, but they do have some valid issues that we do need to address as a district.
And just 2 questions. I think one question you answered in the presentation, just clarification. So back in 2021, you had 3 different ratings, right? You had S&P, you had Fitch's, and you had Moody's. And so they just don't do it at the same time. So as you were saying, within the next 6 months, we will have the opportunity to be rated by both S&P and Fitch, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct. Likely Fitch within the next 45 days. Yes, and S&P, as you said, a little bit further out, but that'll be coming up as well shortly.
Mm-hmm. And also,
and the methodology.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I was also wanted Vincent and David to speak to what Moody's indicated is if there are significant changes, they would also go back and review their rating. So if we were fully accredited, that's a significant event that could prompt that. If we reduce the number of interim positions, along with accreditation, that could also prompt a reassessment of the rating that they gave us. So that is something that they could do besides what we're looking at with the other 2 rating companies.
And to echo what Dr. J says, that those two things, the accreditation, the permanent positions, and I think the audit report, which will now include some additional information that will validate the 311 reports, which I think we didn't get full credit for the financial performance.
And I believe the other part of your question, only Moody's adopted this new methodology. The other two rating agencies are still with their own criteria.
Excellent. That was the question I had. Great. Thank you. Okay. I do not see any other questions, trustees. Great. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, David. And
thank you.
I'm seeing this accessible and understandable.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to our next agenda item, which is a presentation of the Peralta Federation of Teachers' initial proposal for collective bargaining agreement with the Peralta Community College District for 2022 labor negotiations.
All right, thank you. Good evening, President Reese, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, colleagues, and the community. This will be a very quick presentation. The Peralta Federation of Teachers is adding to its list pursuant to California Government Code Section 3547. They are adding to their sunshine list of proposals a new article for the contract on high flex courses. And also pursuant to the same section of the government code, then there will be a public hearing at the next board meeting on March 22nd, so that the public may provide its opinions regarding this additional article for negotiations. And then we would then ask, of course, for a vote of the Board of Trustees following that public presentation, or public comment, I should say. And that concludes my presentation, President Reese.
To category 5, information. 5.1, letter of response to financial review and physical health risk analysis report. Dr. Jackson.
The FITMAT report was prepared by the colleges as well as the district office to address concerns that had come up in previous meetings with the Financial Crisis Management Assistance Team. Our methodology was to take the recommendations from the FITMAT report and to align it with areas of responsibility by putting it in a spreadsheet, putting in the information that was included in the report under the responsible areas, and then giving a status of where we were based upon documentation. And that has been something that has been missing in our previous reports that they wanted us to address, just like we do with ACCJC, that not just to say this has been completed, but to show documentation that it had been completed. We worked on this as a district for over, well, since I got here, April of last year, we started with the task force. And when we got closer to the deadline dates, we were meeting at least once weekly. And you have to understand this was also being completed at the same time that we were finishing up our follow-up report to the notice that we got of a follow-up visit from ACCJC at their June meeting. So in 94 days, we had to respond to ACCJC in a follow-up report, and then extended out another 40 some days. We had to respond to the report from FITMAT. So I want to publicly acknowledge the hard work of the staff at the colleges as well as the district office. This was a monumental task. I think it is very thorough. It provides documentation. And I have not heard back in terms of a status from the state chancellor's office. They did receive it. We wanted to make sure that we got it to them before the end of the semester and before the winter break, which is why it was dated on the 22nd. We did not get back to campus and open classes, I think, on the 24th. And then I didn't want to bother them about it for that first week or two in January, because I know coming back from a winter break, it always, you have to get your kind of going back in your momentum of your daily activities and your operational rhythm. And so I did follow up with them. They indicated that they were having problems. As you know, the CCC apply system had been hacked. And because of that, they implemented several security procedures and processes. So the backup documentation that we provided on the thumb drive that's referenced in the spreadsheet, they could not open because their system would not allow them to open up a document that had not been certified through their IT. So they told me that they're working on that. They should get back to us sometime around the middle or the end of March is what I was told. And then we will provide a status report to the board at that time. Are there any questions about the FitMat report? Okay.
Trustees, any questions? Being none. Thank you, Chancellor. Let us go to 5.2, construction projects and sustainability reports.
I believe that IVC Smith is going to do a quick introduction, and AECom is going to provide a status. As you know, the board indicated in the revised mission statement that it wanted to look at environmental sustainability in all areas. And so this first report is looking at construction and our construction projects. And with that, I'll turn it over to IVC Smith.
If you'd like me to share my screen, let me know, IVC Smith.
Please do. Please share your screen. Thank you, Chancellor Jackson. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Peralta community. I'd like to introduce Sharon Serrano from AECom and also David Carter from PG&E to go over and review the bond program sustainability. So please go ahead.
Next slide. Good evening, President Reese, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, and Peralta community. My name is Sharon Serrano. I'm actually dual-hatted, similar to Keith Kajia. I am the Deputy Program Manager as well as the Design Manager. I am joined today by Dave Carter from PG&E. And David, if you'd like to introduce yourself quickly, I can go ahead and stop for a minute and then proceed with the presentation. David? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and proceed with the presentation. I'm here tonight to speak to how sustainability is incorporated into the bond program. Sustainability has been part of the construction industry for decades. U.S. Green Building Council, or USGBC, is the organization that developed the industry standard for defining guidelines for high performance and sustainable buildings. That framework is known today as the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, or what we call LEED. We are currently in version 4.1 of the LEED standards, and those standards address energy efficiency, water conservation, site and material selection, daylighting, and waste reduction. LEED standards are updated every 4 years, similar to California building codes. Next slide. So how does LEED work? It uses a scorecard and points. And there are 7 major categories within the LEED system or the LEED scorecards. Those categories are innovation, indoor environmental quality, materials and resources, location and transportation, sustainable sites, energy and atmosphere, and water efficiencies. Some examples of those categories are simple signage sharing green building education, usage of natural lighting, incorporating storage and collection of recycled material, availability of public transportation, light pollution reduction, simple purchasing of Energy Star appliances, and incorporating possibly dual flush toilets. Next slide. Now, the combination of points equates to each level of certification. Certified underneath LEED is 40 to 49 points. To get LEED Silver is 50 to 59 points. Gold, 60 to 79 points, and Platinum, 80 plus points. But I want to stress tonight is that LEED Silver, Gold, Platinum buildings 15 to 20 years ago is not the LEED Silver, Gold, and Platinum buildings of today. The 15 to 20-year-old buildings would not meet the LEED requirements in today's construction buildings. Next slide, please. So how is sustainability implemented in the bond program? We design and build to California building codes. Cal Green, or Title 24, is a section of the building code that focuses on sustainability. Division of State Architect, or DSA, has jurisdiction over community college construction projects, and they verify compliance to Title 24 requirements. Peralta's district standards dictate LEED Silver as a baseline or minimum. And we did a quick poll for neighboring cities and other community college districts, and they share the same LEED standard. In regards to certification, AEs, or architects engineers, are required to provide all the documentation required for LEED certification, but the district determines on a case-by-case basis whether or not to pursue the actual certification. Next slide, please. So how is Peralta and the bond program invested? So the district made a significant investment in a comprehensive sustainability master plan in 2017, based on, at that time, Board Policy 2.40. There was a commitment to environmental stewardship, but funding was not available. With the loss of the sustainability manager position, there was no resource to move the plan forward. Next slide. But there will always be a cost. for sustainability measures. Before everyone experiences sticker shock because the numbers are there, I want to preface the next couple of slides. This is an example of cost premium percentages. These are not actual sustainability costs associated with the Millview project. So as you can see, I use the cost premiums, the 1% for certified, the 2% for silver, the 3% for gold, and the LEED platinum. I use the total project cost of the Millview project at Berkeley and then multiplied it across the different certification levels. And I want to emphasize that there are so many combination of LEED points to achieve certification that a simple percentage can never define the actual cost. So that's what I wanted to make sure that everyone understands. I wanted to call your attention to the next few slides, how sustainability costs can grow through the bond program. Next slide. So what I did was I took the Millview Berkeley project and showed once again the calculations between the percentages, and I showed the difference between silver and gold, and then once again between gold and platinum. So this is one situation, one project. But if you move to the next slide, what it shows is all the projects within each campus, and then each level of certification with the 1%, 2%, 3%, and 7% multiplier. And then you can see the delta between the silver and the gold, as well as the gold and platinum. That's $32 million. So once again, this is an example using the percentages from a historical example in the past. So next slide. Next steps. The district needs to foster a commitment to environmental stewardship. Invite volunteers to be part of a sustainability steering committee. Confirm their sustainability focus areas are still relevant today. Look for low-hanging fruit projects and attempt to mainstream in the implementation of sustainability efforts. So it becomes sort of a non-thinking and a non-thinking concept in the sense of, bringing in a water bottle instead of buying bottled water. It becomes a cultural event, and it becomes something where we're not thinking about it anymore. Next slide, please. And how are we going to implement these strategies? 2 simple implementation strategies is focusing on, number 1, reassessing your existing energy generation systems, optimizing them, and making sure that it's at its peak performance and monitor their performance. Second strategy could be implementing the district sustainability standards, where our baseline is LEED Silver. Next slide. District implementation strategies. So these are simple implementation strategies. Finding a champion for sustainability. It could be students, a community member, and encourage mass transit. Another option is to partner up with local programs like Climate Action for a Sustainable Alameda or East Bay Community Energy. And look for sustainability-focused programs like PG&E's Sustainable Solutions Turnkey. And this is a moment where I'd like to turn it over to David from PG&E to describe that Sustainable Solutions Turnkey program. David?
I see that you turned off the mute button, David, but we still can't hear you. Could we go to the next slide? Sharon, maybe you can walk us through this, either you or Atheria, because it seems that David's having some issues.
Next slide, please. Go ahead, Sharon. Sharon, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So PG&E Sustainable Solutions Turnkey is a program that basically is a one-stop solution, which identifies not only designs and implements energy efficiency, but renewable generation, energy storage, and water conservation. And it measures existing systems for their largest customers. So what they want to see is customers enjoy significant cost in energy and basically CO2 savings, typically 20 to 40% annually. This program also measures lighting, HVAC systems, batteries, microgrids, and EV chargers, as well as water. Over the last decade, PG&E has done large projects for schools, cities, counties, as well as hospitals and state and federal agencies, including single and multi-use facilities or multi-site facilities. The process in itself is transparent, collaborative, and they basically do a detailed audit to identify all possible measures, and they work closely with all the customers to prioritize and select those measures. And then, of course, PG&E also verifies and measures the expected savings. Now, the SST team are a group of energy experts and part of PG&E's customer service care division, and they're committed to triple bottom line results for customers. Next slide, please. So what did they want to focus on was the examples of sectors served. They've worked at state agencies, schools, universities, cities, private hospitals. They wanted to spotlight a few things about process to a T. They look at 15 measures identified in 15 measurements of identification audits. They do 4 key measures installed at this point. They measure LED lighting, HVAC controls, repair and upgrade rooftops. They also include fan wall installations. For the most part, there has been, the results are $600,000 per year in cost savings for their clients, 33% reduction in electricity, 26% reduction in gas, and 2,700 metric tons per year of CO2 that has been eliminated. Next slide, please. So the advantages for the PG&E SST program is they focus on long-term relationships. They've served Peralta District for many years, many decades, and will continue to do so in the future. They are focused on what is best for the district and not driven by short-term considerations. Deep knowledge of Peralta. PG&E is your utility. They have a deep knowledge of your facilities and energy use. They look at a long-term consultative approach to serving you, and they are in an excellent position to leverage all available rebates and incentive programs. They do not have any proprietary systems. They're not selling it. They look at best practices and best situation programs to fit the needs of Peralta. They have extensive expertise. They have dozens of the largest ESCOs under agreement. They use numerous specialists in areas of solar, lighting, batteries, and microgrid. They also negotiate for you for lower margin and faster delivery. And more importantly, they run a competitive process. They compete through their deep bench of subcontractors and against each other, of course, to drive the best technical solutions at the lowest possible prices. And that's the end of the PG&E SST Advantage and their presentation. Any questions?
Trustees, do we have any questions? Trustee Gonzalez-Hewitt.
Thanks. If we could lose this screen, that would be helpful. So I'm not talking to a big screen. Thank you so much for the presentation. I've been looking forward to a sustainability report for a little while. I'm hoping we can go back to board policy on this matter and then really do a full review. I think, Ms. Serrano, you've done a good job of highlighting some of the sort of traditional opportunities of LEED certification. And I think at Peralta, we have all of these additional add-ins that we need to be considering that are powerful opportunities. First and foremost, of course, we're an educational institution. And so leveraging the bond dollars, LEED certification, with the additions you get when you incorporate education is really where you get your big bonus. One of the things you talked about was the cost of additional LEED certification. of course, the benefits and the savings side in terms of energy use, water, et cetera. But I think the bigger advantage is where we can leverage that into the classroom. And I think to do that, we really need to go back to the base, and that's students, faculty, and the staff. So I think one of the things you said was we need to identify the champions on our campuses to do that. And my sense is that's really the number one place that we should be starting. So I look forward to hearing more. I hope that we hear back from you and in particular, the faculty, staff, and students doing this work soon. And that it's not an afterthought in our bond spending. We've got real opportunities here, but we need to be creative about that. I'll just mention one example. When we think about transportation and sustainable transportation, this is a key factor for students. Students trying to get to school, students trying to get to work. How do we build into our infrastructure affordable transportation? So we've got our Easy Pass program, which hopefully we will get back after the current round of student government elections. We'll see what happens there. But there are also things like bicycles. At Berkeley City College, we have a tiny, tiny, tiny little bicycle room, which we got a few lead points for. But it's really just, it was sort of a token add-on. But what if we were partnering with Bike East Bay to really think carefully about who our students are and how we would build out a bicycle infrastructure for students, an affordable, healthful, community building mode of transportation. The possibilities are kind of endless here. And I think the other thing that we really need to be emphasizing is that this is the issue of our time. This isn't an add-on. This is like, will we survive as a species in any form that is recognizable right now? And if we're not doing that, who is? We're the best position to do that. So I really appreciate your attention to this. It's the beginning of a conversation. I'm hoping the board and the administration can get really serious about this conversation. And obviously, this needs to be a central focus for student and faculty and staff initiative. The administration or the board isn't going to carry this one. So unless we resource that initiative, it won't happen. How can we creatively resource this initiative? And Chancellor, I know you've had some thoughts on this. I look forward to your initiative on this. And again, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Trustee Ewan, and thank you, Sharon and David. Hopefully, you got your computer working. So thank you for.
I might have.
Oh, there you are.
I had to dial in. I'm sorry, guys.
Is there anything that you want to add, David? I think Sharon covered the slides, but if there's something that maybe you want to reinforce before we move on to the next agenda item, I'll give you that opportunity.
That would be great. The one thing that, and I'm sure Sharon said it, I didn't get to hear everything that she said as I was trying to dial in, but, the goal of the program and what we've been talking to AECOM, and the district about is to really help maximize sort of that infrastructure component of the bond dollars. And so by looking at these existing facilities that you have and helping find ways to, extract energy savings and water savings and really look at the broader sustainability and resiliency needs, we do believe that we can help the district through this program, extend and expand, what the bond is targeting. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. And thank you to Sharon and IVC Smith. I'll turn it back over to President Bellarice.
Thank you.
I can't hear you, President Reese. I don't know. You don't look like you're on mute, though.
That would be a good idea to actually unmute myself. So let's go on to the consent calendar. First of all, thank you, Sharon, and thank you, David. That's what I started off with for a great presentation. Now let's move on to the consent calendar for all of the items except 6.1 because Trustee Jenkins, you removed that, correct?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Withdraw, second.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. Roll call.
Student Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper?
Abstain.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
No.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, let's move to 6.1. Trustee Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam President. Chancellor, quick question. With the flights, just ensuring that the district will be paid back for the difference between the lowest fare and the fare that is estimated on the documentation.
Sorry, I have to unmute myself too. For those items, we require documentation and we do go back and check those. And thank you for bringing it to our attention the first time this came forward, because I did a little investigative work and found that the administrative clerical person put the highest cost that was there versus putting what would be considered a nominal or actual cost. So when we do our reconciliation, we ask for documentation on those. And I do sign off on that. And believe me, I look at every one of them. I would have caught it, but I would have probably caught it at the end versus at the beginning. And it does make a difference if someone is asking for an advance, if they're using that as a basis for advance, but there were no advances requested on this travel. I did have a question because this item was pulled. We have had a request. It hasn't come to this board meeting, but it may come in the future regarding international travel. There was a decision that the board made in the past regarding international travel because of COVID, but that has now lifted somewhat. And so I'm just wondering, is the board entertaining approval of international travel if it follows within the guidelines identified in the policy, in our board policy? And that's really a question, if the board, anyone would like to entertain that, or the board president, because I've been told there may be some coming forward. So Trustee Handy?
Yes, I was actually, there was a policy that was done when I first came up on the board against international travel. Anything that came up, I mean, that's different than like study abroad programs or when our students go abroad and someone goes with them. But there was a policy, and I don't think that was ever changed. And it was because of the people felt it was abuse of public funds. In fact, that's why I was elected. They wanted to get rid of the previous person because people were traveling all over the place. So there needs to be another discussion and justification.
All right.
For that kind of an expenditure, because that's really considerably different than flying locally. I mean, the cost involved in that.
All right.
So I've seen people combine like a sabbatical with a conference, or there have been people who've had, maybe it was like a scientific conference abroad, but I think they took like what a fare would be like in the States, and then they paid the additional piece. So there were some ways that people came forward and were able to do that.
Okay.
But I think it will require, if that policy is still in place, I think it's going to require a discussion.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
We'll do some more research. I know that Chief of Staff was taking down notes, and I'll come back with the recommendation to the board. I just wanted to, I couldn't find it, but maybe I was looking in the wrong place.
That would be Dr. J, when you and I both came to the district, that was
2004.
that was it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We may have to do a little research. Thank you very much. Any other questions, Trustee Jenkins? On 6.1? Okay.
I think Trustee Withdraw has his hand up.
Yeah, I have a question on the international travel. Don't we have to incorporate that into our international student program? We have participants from that program that historically have gone to China and Vietnam and South Korea and to South America.
We do, Trustee Withdraw. I was just wondering if the board had a preference or some guidance as we move forward. As you know, that program was under the auspices of the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs and Student Success, and that was Dr. Siri Brown. And Dr. Brown left at the end of last, I was going to say calendar year, December 31st, to return to the classroom. So we were just trying to get a little bit of clarity. Dr. Joker has overview of that area, and there was a question regarding a request for international, and I'm not talking about Europe, I'm talking within the Americas. And so I just didn't know if there was some guidance to follow on that. So yeah, and you are right, there are some exceptions.
Right. I wanted to say that as well, Dr. Jackson, regarding the study abroad and the international program was not part of that at all. And those trips are subsidized. They raise money for them. On some cases, the district may have some contribution to it, like with the China trips. The students pay for their visas, their passports. The district paid for the airfare, and China picked up every expense from the moment the students stepped on the ground until they returned weeks later. That's not part of what the policy was. That was about board and employee and faculty travel.
And that was what my question was on employee travel, not on international students.
No, international. No, we worked hard to build that international program and to also give our students the opportunity to travel. Oh, no. That was not part of it.
Okay, thank you.
So just one more comment. I know that the question was really about whether we had a board policy on international travel because of COVID, and I think we kind of answered that. But given our prior conversations, Dr. Jackson, I think maybe it would be a good idea to actually have policies and processes around conference travel for both employees and faculty and administrators and also trustees, so that we're all very clear on parameters and to institutionalize that going forward.
Thank you. And we'll make note of that and go back and review AP. There's Administrative Procedure 7400 that Dr. Joker brought forward, and we'll go back. We may want to revise that and add that into that procedure so that we cover that for all personnel associated with the Peralta Community College District, which would then be board members as well as students and staff.
Okay, thank you. Let us vote on this. Do I have a motion for 6.1?
I'd like to move 6.1.
Second,
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. And thank you, Trustee Withdraw. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Cooper,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Section 11, action items. Let's go to 11.1. Consider approval of tenure recommendations and continued probationary status for 2022-23 academic year. Dr. Droger?
Move approval.
I think we're already moving, but yes, we're excited to present to you the tenured faculty and those moving forward in the process.
Congratulations to all our tenured faculty. It's a long process and incredible achievement, for sure. Any other comments, questions? All right.
I was
do a
just
roll
going
call.
to, before the vote, just one of the themes that I've been using is a Back to the Future. And when I was here as a vice president of instruction at College of Alameda, the district threw a party for all of the tenured faculty members so that the board could meet them, the presidents could present them, and they would bring their families. I'd like for us, with the board's approval, to reinstitute that as we move forward with hybrid meeting. I think that if we did it at near the end of the semester before a board meeting. So if that is possible, I'd like to do that. We might want to do it outside so that people might feel a little bit, but it was a big thing for a lot of families with children to see their mom or their dad getting recognition, talking a little bit about their background and bringing them into the Peralta family. So I wanted to pose that to the board, and if I kind of see a nodding of hands, then I'll move forward with that. Okay.
Good idea.
All right. Thank you.
That was our very last in-person meeting, was 2 years ago at the district office doing that celebration.
Yeah.
That was the very last board meeting that we did in person.
It means a lot to our faculty. You know, it's a huge milestone for many of them. So good. I will move forward with that.
I agree.
Right. Roll call, please.
Just to clarify, I have trustee Withrow as the first vote and the motion, and who was the second?
I think I made the motion, but maybe Bill did. I don't know.
Then maybe it was trustee.
I made the motion and you in second.
All good.
That's okay. You guys spoke exactly at the same time, so I couldn't confirm who was first. All right. Student trustee Hogan.
Yes.
Student trustee Cooper.
I'm sorry, I've gotten a little bit lost as to which item we're on now.
We are 11.1 for the tenure recommendations.
Oh, yes, I vote yes.
Thank
Sorry.
you. It's okay. Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins. Trustee Jenkins. Did we lose him? Trustee Handy.
Yes, and congratulations to all.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes, and also congratulations.
Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Sasha, yes for me. Trustee Jenkins.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, let's go to 11.2. Consider ratification of an agreement for construction services with Gilbane Building Company for campus water line repair work at Laney College in an amount not to exceed $51,094. Smith, may I have a motion for this?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withdraw.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. Questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Cooper,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 11.3, consider adoption of resolution number 21/22-58, declaring futility of public bidding and approval of change order number 1 to the agreement for construction services with Gilbane Building Company for the emergency water line repair at Laney College, an amount not to exceed $82,608. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Second.
Second.
Trustee Jenkins, any discussion or questions? All right. Roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Cooper,
Yes.
student trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 11.4, consider approval for scope of work from Huron Consulting Group for PeopleSoft Financial, HCM, and CS applications. I believe that we have a presentation for this before we do the motion.
Moved.
I think that the board had requested at the last meeting that we have Huron come in and make a presentation. IVC Ahmed, do you want to do the introductions? Are they here? I can only see a portion of my screen, so I'm not.
We are here.
They are here.
Oh, there you are. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Bader, who is with Huron, to talk about the training component that is coming before you now in the CRM and, HRM, and also in the finance modules and asset management. I will indicate that I know that Laney College is looking at bringing forward another proposal for Huron to do some very in-depth training specifically for Laney College. So I don't want the board to be surprised. They're in negotiations for that right now. And it will be focused on the Laney staff because of some of the issues that we've had with the system that we think may need to be modified and identified. So we may see Kathy again, or it may be another member of the Huron team. So with that, if you want us to share your slides, Kathy, or
Submit.
I have it up and ready if you'd like for me to share my screen.
Okay.
Thank you. And
then I
Sumit
didn't-
Dewan will be kicking it off for us.
All right,
Thank you.
I didn't see you submit. You had your camera off, so I didn't see you. So,
No problem, Chancellor Jackson.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board, Chancellor Jackson, all the panelists and guests. My name is Sumit Dewan. I come to you from Huron, and with me today is Kathy Bader, and we will be talking about our findings from an assessment of the PeopleSoft application, the ERP, finance, and HCM applications that we conducted last September, as well as some updates from the training project that's going on right now, and some optimization opportunities. Next slide, please. We'll be talking about the assessment approach, summary of our findings, implementation roadmap that was provided during the assessment, the training updates and optimization efforts and next steps, and some questions. Next slide, please. The Huron team was engaged about 6 months ago for a 4-week assessment of the PeopleSoft Phase 2 implementation that was going on at that time. We had a structured approach that lasted for about a month to understand the objectives of the implementation, reaffirm the goals of what was asked from the assessment, and then really get into the nitty-gritty of collecting all the data that we needed for this assessment, during which we conducted over 15 different sessions with the team members from Peralta. We also had a listing of 40 plus different business processes from the HR applications as well as finance applications that we reviewed. We had some follow-up meetings and came up with 42 different findings that were summarized and presented to the Peralta project team in the month of September. And I will be going through the main findings from this assessment. Next slide, please. So here were the main things we discovered during our assessment. First off, we found that the district, both the IT teams as well as the business offices have done a tremendous job of taking the implementation for phase 2 of PeopleSoft to the point where it was at that point, which was configuring all the applications, setting up all the business processes into PeopleSoft, and getting ready to a point where it was close to the finish line when we were conducting the assessment. So kudos to the team from IT as well as the business offices. Another thing that we observed was that a win for the district was reducing paper and streamlining business processes through the PeopleSoft implementation. And we found that this was in line with what we normally see at other universities and community colleges. We did find a lot of opportunities as well that were opportunities for improvement. So one of them was that we found that even though the core team was involved in learning the application, there needed to be more of a concerted effort to train the end users who are going to actually use the system in a more structured manner. So whether it's example of entering time into PeopleSoft or approving time, or entering a travel request or approving an expense report, things of that nature touch a lot of the employees, a lot of the staff and faculty, as well as students in some cases. So that training needed to be undertaken. Another opportunity in the same vein was more change management, more thoughts on making sure the implementation is holistic in understanding where we are going from the current environment to the new environment, not only from a technical standpoint, but from a business and how everybody's life is touched from this system. So that aspect of change management is important in perhaps the future projects that Peralta undertakes. We also found that the team members from both IT and business offices were involved in manning the day-to-day operations, as well as the implementation or upgrade of PeopleSoft. And generally what we observe at the clients that are higher education is that during these implementations, there is a backfill team that takes on the day jobs, if you will, of the team members that are more closely involved with the implementation, so that they have more time and bandwidth to understand and immerse into the new application. So this is an opportunity for future projects. Additionally, for the immediate PeopleSoft Phase 2 project that was going on, one of the things we suggested was that there were some gaps in the way the testing was taking place. Specifically, more involvement from colleges needed to be included into the user acceptance testing. So that was an observation made, and I believe that both the training that I was talking to you about earlier, as well as this testing gaps have been resolved since then, is my understanding from CTO Antoine. And then we observed that on both the finance and HR side, the business processes that needed to be optimized during this implementation, we thought that more work is needed to optimize them further. So this is something that can be taken up internally within the Peralta team, and our findings detail them out as the team goes live and stabilizes. And the final one here is related to, again, documenting business processes in a way that new hires or people that need training have the opportunity to go through as a procedure manual and understand each of the processes. So, for example, whether it's entering a new position or approving time and things of that nature. So this is a summary of all of the findings that we had during the last September's assessment. Next slide, please. Coming out of the assessment, we presented a roadmap to the Peralta team, which basically asked for how to get to the finish line for the current phase, as well as some of the steps and opportunities beyond that. So one of the things, the first thing at that point was completing the testing, completing the user acceptance testing, with the recommendation of involving more folks from the colleges. Once that is done, another thing that was needed was making sure there is a planned strategy as well as schedule for the end user training that I believe is taking place right now. And then that all of those should line up well for a successful go live, which I believe is going to take place in the month of April. And once the go live has taken place, we recommend that there be a period of time for stabilizing the application. Since there are a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of different functionality aspects that are being implemented. So we generally advise a 4 to 6 months of stabilization period after the go live, where we're sort of in a war room, take the tickets on and support all the new users with all the new functionality, and then go into a phase 3, which is planned by the district. And so this was a roadmap that we talked about with the team when we did our assessment last September. Since then, next slide, please. One of the things that has happened is the start of the end user training. And I know that this started last month, so I think the teams from Peralta and Huron are collaborating on coming up with an approach and a schedule for this end user training, which will take place with the overall time frame of 11 weeks, starting, I believe, mid-February. And I'm happy to report that as of last week, the team has already started working on some quick reference guides, which are job aids and over 20 of them have already been developed for finance and HCM, HR, and the rest of the job aids are being developed as we speak. In addition to that, the team is also working on preparing for some instructor-led training classes that are going to take place in the month of April and early May. So that's a quick update on what's going on with the training project right now. Next, I will turn it over to Kathy for some optimization next steps. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. I'm Kathy Bader with Huron. I've been in higher ed since well before the turn of the century. And while I've been at Huron, have focused a good deal of my effort around the California community colleges as a matter of personal preference, and partially because, and almost entirely because I appreciate the mission of your schools. That said, I want to talk a little bit here about next steps, what we're going to be doing next. I want to echo a few things that Sumit had been talking about. First, in doing these assessments and the training and the optimization, you are doing exactly what needs to be done at this point in your life cycle with this system. And it's a tactically good thing to do. It is also something that a number of the other schools who implemented at the same time as you are doing. So, and it can be a fairly, what we call light touch effort, where we come in, look under the hood fairly quickly because we have a lot of experience with the community colleges, give recommendations, and with you, side by side, implement some changes. And I think you would be surprised at how quickly things can be accomplished. What we're doing in the next step is looking under the hood, particularly at the student systems. And we have an eye on a few of the things that have caused issues in other community colleges, but have already been raised even in this meeting around Laney College, for instance, is experiencing some issues around things that we think are normal to have issues around. Pell and loan processing, what we call R2T4, I'm sure you've heard of, but financial aid in particular is fond of acronyms, and this is the return to Title IV funds that can be somewhat difficult within a community college format where students start and stop fairly regularly. So we're going to take a look at those and look forward to some further effort with Laney College. We think after a conversation with them, for instance, that we can make recommendations and take care of some of the Pell issues fairly quickly. So that's where we're headed in the next steps, looking under the hood with student experts who can determine fairly quickly where we need to go, putting a plan forward for those, and taking advantage quickly of the low-hanging fruit and even some of the things that we might consider to be big compliance and student service issues. So the arc of this process is one that is, while targeted and directive, also iterative in that that this is a process. This is a process that that while it takes some time, can be done fairly easily, and it just is worth it to step back, take the time, take a look, and see where we need to head. So that is that ends Sumit and I's presentation. We'd like to know if you have any questions, or Antoine, or do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Take the questions.
Thank you. Trustees, do we have any questions? No. The question. I know that one of the difficulties has been, and which you've pinpointed, end user training. And I know that you've had many of these training orientations. Have there been many people that have been attending? And how has that gone? I mean, I'm sure it's even more difficult during COVID than it is in a non-COVID time, but has that been effective? Has that been successful? Have there been people there?
Sumit, you want to take that one?
Yes, so that's a great question. So what we've been doing is right now we're at a strategy phase of that training project, but definitely the plan is to engage and communicate to the entire district, all of the colleges, to have all of the members engaged. In fact, I attended before we kicked off the project a sort of a pre-kickoff where we had representatives from all the colleges, and we had sort of a roadshow of what are the different training topics going to be, for both finance and HR. So we're expecting to engage a lot of the employees, staff, faculty, students, everyone. And I know that VC Antoine is working with the team on this. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yes, yes. Our training plan is planned to begin on this month on the 28th of March. Right now, we are working on developing the schedule. We are working closely with the colleges, and this time we changed the way we're doing this training schedule. So the colleges have been providing the data to inform the training schedule and the training strategy. So we want to be efficient and very effective. And then the colleges are fully engaged. The college presidents are fully engaged. We even have a meeting today to finalize our plan, and we'll be sending a communication with Mark Johnson very soon to all the members, and also identifying which member will go to which training. So we have a very tight plan. So thank you.
And just additive to that, we have found that actually the Zoom world has made it easier for us to reach more people. Unless you order lots and lots of pizza, it's hard to get a full cohort, but it's much easier on Zoom to get people, all the people that you need.
Good point.
I think Trustee Bonilla has a question.
I do, thank you. And thank you both for such a comprehensive presentation. We know that this scope of work here that you just presented to us comes with a hefty price tag, but obviously we are seeing a schedule and timeline. I'm just wondering, Chancellor, we're looking at a very comprehensive training schedule happening here with Huron. And I just want to know, how does that, and we just approved a pretty significant high cost travel for PeopleSoft as well to go to another training out of state. How did these two inform and work with each other to move the district forward with its IT needs? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because they appear to be two separate issues, and I'm sure they're somewhat connected.
They absolutely are connected. One of the things that we have been asked to address at the district level, and because we also have an individual at the campus that is fairly new, is professional development and to network with colleagues. So the conference, the users group, is an international nonprofit organization that is for higher ed. Higher ed, both community college, four-year institutions, private institutions. It's one of the more premier, it is the premier training and conferences for end users of Oracle products and PeopleSoft in particular. So it was felt that that recommendation came from our Department of Ed advisor that we needed to provide professional development and encourage people to attend these conferences, because there are things that are happening. They have issues that may be the same as us. You develop those connections and those contacts. So that is a component of training, but more formalized based upon the jobs that each of the individuals that are attending work in. So over 300 workshops for them to choose from. And it was felt that a team needed to go, not just one individual, because we really need to dig deep so that we can resolve this issue in the area, particularly of financial aid and finance. So that is part of the implementation of PeopleSoft 9.2 is a finance module, which includes modules that relate to financial aid. I think you heard Huron mention the Pell Grants, RTT4, all of those things that are particular for financial aid, but have been causing us issues because of our lack of knowledge of the not Huron, but of the PeopleSoft system itself. And so that is something that they are looking at and addressing. So the professional development, the episodic training that we're doing right now, which is focused on the migration to the new system, the professional development and learning center that I apprise the board of, so that we can have that on an ongoing basis and not always rely on external sources for that kind of training, and have an umbrella for professional development for everyone. And also the focus that the board has on diversity, equity, access, and inclusion. That is also going to be part of that. And then this short term, the other contract that will be coming forward is really to drill down specifically at Laney College, because the other colleges have a process and Laney's is different from the other colleges. And we need to find out why is there these loggerheads when we're transmitting data using that particular procedure at Laney, and that is not always being transmitted to the federal government and to Title IV. And that's something that they are going to be working directly with Laney on. So that's why all of those components are tied together, because we have to make this significant push now so that we can get this over with and get it done and move forward and move into that next phase, I think, of now that we have the orientation about the system, now that we're using the system, there's that transition period of, I think Kathy said about 4 months, 4 to 6 months, that people will start to get familiar with it. We may have to do some more focused training at that point. And then we'll start, I think, actually optimizing some of our processes because of that movement to that new system. So that's how it all ties together.
Chancellor, thank you so much. I think you actually clarified and connected professional development with this conference that, we were probably just a little bit, some folks may be surprised to see us, now engaging in professional development, getting out to these conferences. But I really appreciate how you tied it into our internal processes around improving our IT system, and how that then translates to faculty, staff engaging in their professional development related to the same, the same improving of skills around IT. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate that it happened in one agenda for us, sometimes it's a little bit much, but it's nice to make these connections and see the work happening on the ground, the work happening internally with systems and with the professional development side. So I appreciate that. It's been a while. And I also want to connect it to Mr. Mark Johnson's presentation, where we actually got to see a little bit of those content web development updates that I'm sure is all interrelated. So very appreciative of this IT development as we see it moving forward. Thank you.
Yes. Any more comments? Let me just say one more thing. Thank you, Cassie, and thank you, Summit. I am so glad that Huron is here. You all have, or Huron has an incredible track record working with PeopleSoft and community colleges. And I feel like as I'm hearing this conversation and thinking about the PowerPoint presentation, the precision in which you are approaching this long, ongoing, expensive problem that is so critical to the success of this district makes me happy, because you're going to finally take us to where we need to be. So again, just echoing Trustee Bonilla's response and comments, thank you. We look forward to seeing more of the work as we move on.
And thank you for letting us be here. And it really is all about providing good student service in the end. So.
Thank you, Smith. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, shall we do I have a motion? Sorry, I got so wrapped up in the presentation that I don't think we even did we do a motion in a second?
We have a motion, we don't have a second.
Okay. Oh,
I will second.
I have a second for the motion. Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hogan.
Yes.
Student Trustee Hogan.
Yes. Thank you.
Student Trustee Cooper. Student
Yes.
Trustee Cooper. Oh, thank you. Trustee Withdraw.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Pogue.
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consider construction services for inspection efficiencies in the amount of $366,143.85.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee
Second.
Withdraw. Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Discussion. Oh, Trustee Bonilla.
Yeah, this, whenever I see Johnson Controls, I get a little bit of heartburn, right? And so,
yes.
Like, I feel like we need a presentation. We need a presentation on where are we? What are we doing? What's going on? And Chancellor, this is moving forward, because unless someone wants to take a bite out of this apple.
I will try to address just a little bit. Your sentiments are echoed in some of the discussions that I've had also. But I had a very good meeting today with our legal team regarding Johnson Controls. And I'm trying to find my notes that we discussed it. And it helped me to understand what Johnson Controls does and how we need to move forward. But they really do three different things, and they do our assessment of our systems, they do the maintenance on our systems, and they do any kind of repair and replacement of our systems. And so the different contracts that you see are speaking to each of those different parts. The problem, if there is a problem, is that the equipment that we have is proprietary. and only JCI can work on it unless they give us approval to have someone else work on that. And so to change our entire system, which is interrelated at every campus, would be a phenomenal amount of money to do that. So we are trying to figure out a way to make it clear to the board, or clearer to the board when they come forward with projects, the beginning of the project and the end of the project, and the sign off on the project, and the evaluation and assessment that the project has been completed. Some of the onus of that is on us, and some of that is on them. So today helped to clarify, at least for me, moving forward, how to present our contracts with JCI. And it will get clear in the future, but we do have proprietary equipment throughout the district. And the reason we keep coming back is because when they do their assessment, they give us a scope of the things that they have to fix. And guess what? They're moving parts. So other parts break. So we have to come back. And it just seems like it's a never ending trail. But I think we can do a better job of providing clarity to the board on that as we move forward. I'm getting my arms around it. Today was the first meeting that I had with DWK, and they've had a long history working with facilities and Johnson's Controls. So.
Thank you for that, Chancellor. And, you know, if it is the pleasure of the board moving forward as you continue to wrap your arms around JCI, as you so tenderly reference to them, I think it would be good, again, if it's the pleasure of the board to, in the somewhere near future, receive some sort of presentation or update. We have an ongoing, as you mentioned, it feels like a running tally that never ends. And at some point, I think it would just be prudent upon us to receive a comprehensive presentation about what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's think about JCI coming in at some point and sharing all their wonderful
absolutely
news with us. So thank you for that.
And we will do that. We will put it on the agenda. There are a lot of outstanding issues that need to be addressed. Let me just leave it like that. And once those issues have been addressed, we will come to the board with, these were the issues and these are the resolution to those issues. And going forward, we shouldn't have those problems again. That is my goal before the end of this year.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Agreement, because I think that this is specific to the deficiencies in the fire alarm in 2020. And so we are in 2022. And even though we've spent quite a bit of money, we are still over $1 million. We're still not where we need to be. So I think it would be good to have them come in or get a much more specific update as to where we are with these projects, and OJO while we're at it too as well. Okay, thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Student Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Cooper?
Abstain.
Trustee Withdraw?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Trustees, we are at reports, Board of Trustee reports. Let me start off with Trustee Bonilla.
I must pass. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee.
Who?
Reports.
Oh, you're cutting in and out. I didn't know it was whether me or not. No, I'll pass. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee, so I have Trustee Jenkins.
Once again, congratulations to all our faculty who received tenure. I know it's a big deal. Congratulations to both you and your families. I want to wish everyone a happy International Women's Month. And I also want to highlight Laney Jones, our executive director, who just received an award for Women's History Month with Assemblywoman Mia Banta. So congratulations, Laney. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan.
Thank you. Gosh, it's been a really busy period. I'll just mention one thing. I just got back from the Advocacy and Policy Conference for the Faculty Association of the California Community Colleges. And the part that really stayed with me was a presentation on funding formula. And in particular, the way that it pushes districts to, and in fact, not just the funding formula, but financial aid and other mechanisms, pushes districts to promote students into a version of full-time status that doesn't really work for them. And it's really, there's a really fascinating study that came out of your former district, Chancellor Jackson, Chabot-Las Positas, that looks at utilization rates, counseling utilization rates, financial aid, and some other things that by full-time versus part-time students. And just think about it for a second. If we're funded for full-time equivalent students and we're being pushed to make sure that students are in full-time status, but in most districts, most students, in fact, are not full-time. Those students go and use a financial aid counselor, or they use a librarian, or they use some other service that's a fixed cost. And whether they're full-time or whether they're part-time, it costs us the same amount, but we get paid for full-time students. We get paid for FTEs. And it was a fascinating look at the SCIF, at funding formulas, and just really reconceptualizing what it would really mean to be student-centered. What that would mean would be to really look at real student lives and say, well, what really works for the way that they have to live their lives. And many, many students can't afford to be full-time students and then properly invest in their education while they're handling family needs, while they're handling full-time work with inflexible job schedules, et cetera. Anyway, there was a lot of really good stuff. And in particular, the other thing that was extraordinary about the conference was the presentations from the leaders from the Student Senate for the California Community Colleges. Several years back, the way that SSCCC was funded shifted, and it's allowed them to become a much more robust advocacy organization. And that strength is really refreshing to see. There's a whole crop of student leaders statewide that are coming up that are really impressive. It was a powerful conference to go to. I'm happy to share out more and look forward to re-strategizing with our student leaders to figure out how to leverage the power of the league and administrators and trustees with the power of faculty and the power of students to really build a community college system that serves students well. So I'll pause there. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Trustee Handy.
Just the visit to Merritt College, which was really, it was just so great to see people in person and to see how much the staff and students appreciated the breakfast. I got to talk to another faculty member about some of our former students. And interestingly enough, I was contacted by a student this week, Montel Floyd, who was at Merritt College, then went on to Humboldt and is now going to, I believe, Georgia State soon. So a lot of memories there. And it was really fun to visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Delphine Polk.
Yes, really quickly, I want to spend just a minute remembering Terry Sandoval, who is a longtime labor leader and the chair of our Democratic Central Committee here in Alameda County, which I'm a member. She was a fierce advocate for working families. She was someone that I looked up to, and she spent a lot of time mentoring young folks like me in politics. And so I just wanted to say a few words just in her memory tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Delphine Polk. Student Trustee Hogan.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I'm excited to participate in the upcoming General Assembly that's happening with the SSCCC. And I really appreciate all of the opportunities that I have been able to accomplish, all of that I've learned here on this voyage, being on the Board of Trustees and being on student body. And I just want to let everyone know that I'm thankful for all of the support and just thankful to be here. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Trustee Cooper.
No, not today as usual lately. I can't survive y'all in telling the truth, and won't tell lies.
Thank you. And just a few words. This week, both Trustee Withdraw and I will be attending the Alameda High School meeting with the board president and the superintendent and a few other people. So we're excited to do that and bring some news back to the district and encourage the relationship even more so. And also just a difficult time, you know, as we have our board meeting today, it's hard to fathom that as we conduct our normal business and our day-to-day life, that families, children, and essentially life and land are being devastated on the other side of the world in Ukraine. And thank you, Chancellor and Presidents, for sending the leadership statement out, allowing all in our district to see the many ways that they can activate, that they can help, and they can engage in helping people in Ukraine. And hearts and hope are with the Ukrainian people in solidarity during this time. And I would also, at the end of this, I would like to close the evening and the board meeting in honor of Casey Segovia. So let us do that. But before we get to that point, do we have any announcements, Vice President?
Yes, we do. First announcement is that enrollment is open for spring 2022 late start classes. So now is the time to enroll. Number two, student survey will close this Friday, March 11th. Third, the board required sexual harassment training and enrollment academy training will be held on Thursday, April 21st from 4 to 7 p.m. Fourth, join us at Laney College on March 16th for our one-stop spring festival. We'll be outside the flagpole helping students enroll for late start classes, in-person counseling, financial aid, and other campus resources. Light snacks will be provided from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. One Stop Spring Festival continues online via Zoom from 4 to 6 p.m. Visit the Laney website for more information. Fifth announcement, College of Alameda is hosting a free produce market on Tuesday, March 22nd from 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. on the Circle Drive. This partnership with Alameda County Food Bank provides free produce to students and community members on the second and fourth Tuesday each month. And then lastly, the next Board of Trustees meeting will be on Tuesday, March 22nd.
Thank you, Vice President Delphine Polk. If we could just take a moment in silence for BCC student Casey Segovia and also Terry Sandoval. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful week. Take care and be well. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.